Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday. I hope you're having a great day on this Sunday. If you're in Utah, happy back to school this week. I'm pretty excited. My kids are very excited. They've had a long summer just being in a new place and not really knowing anyone. And so they're excited to go back to school and start to make friends and get back into a routine. And so we're excited about that too. But I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to our virtual newsletter. This is week number 2 that we are doing this. I have just a brief spiritual thought that I wanted to share. It'll be less extensive than last week, which was like 15 minutes on the Sabbath and like the feminine nature of the Sabbath. This week, I want to share some thoughts and feelings that are just coming from me kind of more organically as I've been looking at different things that are happening in my life right now, and in the lives of my family members. So I have a family member that I love very much who recently decided that they no longer want to participate in the church. And I think this is something that I've sort of innately seen in this person for quite a while, for a long time at this point, and they have been on their own journey with God and with the church and with their own learning. And so they made that decision this week. And honestly, I have been so grateful to just witness this person and also witness myself and to see evidence of the ways that I've grown and the ways that I've healed. Because there was a time in my life when I had a lot of religiosity and I had a lot of false beliefs that contributed to me having a lot of fear at the idea of someone that I love leaving the church and feeling like, oh my gosh, what would that do to them? What will that do to our relationship? What does that do to eternal families? And da da da, like all of these things. There are so many layers to it. And there's a time in my life when I think I would have said, well, I can't be as connected to this person. We can't have, the intimate, deep conversations that we normally have. And so I distanced myself basically from this person. And as it has actually happened now with this particular family member, I've been so grateful to feel a lot of peace. And I think that's kind of surprising to people, because, again, we tie so much to being a member of the church. But truly, as I have learned and understood and come to know God more, come to understand the stages of faith, those episodes that we did with Steve Reed last year, and have come to see that a lot of the times people are leaving the church because they're progressing in their journey of faith. They're progressing in their relationship with God, even though it looks like a regression sometimes. I've just been so grateful to witness the fruits of repentance in me, that I have been on this journey with God and I'm seeing the fruit of that. So I wanted to just share like a couple of ideas for anyone. If you are in a similar situation where someone you love is leaving the church and you have feelings about that, just some suggestions for how to possibly approach this situation, this person. Number one, feel your feelings. There's a whole wide spectrum of emotion that can come with this. And part of being embodied, especially part of connecting with the feminine side of our spiritual development, is to feel, to allow our emotions to be what they are and to hold space for them. Oftentimes, if you just have an emotion come up and you just let it go, it lasts about 90 seconds and then it's out of your body. It's good to go. In this situation, it might feel more lasting, especially if there is more layers to work on yourself, right? So if you have some of that unbelief or you have some trauma, if you have some of your own experience that's contributing, that's getting triggered, it might take longer to process those emotions, but it's still a good opportunity to hold space for whatever comes up. So that's step number one, feel your feelings, the whole wide emotion. Step number two, and this might feel This might feel kind of unsafe, but I'm going to suggest that step number 2 is to get curious. Get curious with this person, especially if this is a person that you love and respect, if you admire them. I think sometimes we have a tendency to look at people that are leaving the church and saying, well, you don't know as much as me, and that's why you're leaving. And I would suggest that this is a good opportunity for us to turn it around and say, maybe you know something that I don't know. What do you know about God? What do you know about yourself that isn't finding resonance in the church at the moment? What do you know about your spiritual journey? What have you gone through already? Like what is your relationship with God like on an individual level? A lot of the times, unfortunately, we associate the church and God so strongly together that when people leave the church, they're also leaving God. And I think that that's a shame. A shame's not a good word for it. I think that that is what some people's journey is. And while I am sad by the thought of that journey, maybe that's the journey that they need. But there are other situations, again, especially if someone is progressing in the stages of faith, that maybe they're leaving the church, but they're not leaving God. And that is a really fascinating place to do some digging and to do some learning, is to understand, like, tell me about your relationship with God that has grown bigger than the church, that has grown bigger than this box that we have kind of, put our faith in, our faith tradition in some ways. Asking those questions. And again, I know that that probably feels really unsafe because we're taught to not ask questions. We're taught to not listen to people that don't have the same faith that we think that we do. But I would suggest that that is actually a really powerful place to go. I think that that could be really powerful for your relationship with this person as well, to maintain that and to let them see, like, hey, I really do respect you, even if there are differences in the way that we worship, even if there's a difference of expression of our spirituality, and I still want to learn from you. I think that that's a really great exhibition of love and care as well. And then the last suggestion, kind of going along with that idea of getting curious with this person, but on a different level, is to get curious with yourself and to get curious with God. And I think that this is a really good opportunity for us to evaluate and say, what are the characteristics of the God that I profess to worship? Is God a respecter of persons? Is there something tied to worship here in this particular place of the church that is a superior option, or is it just a different option? Is there a possibility that I have had some unbelief about God in believing that everyone has to take this one vehicle? Or is this a vehicle that's meant to be more specific and more of an option for people? A lot of people have questions about sealing and the nature of sealing when people leave the church, as they feel like they're giving up their eternal family. Is that true? Or is our sealing symbolic of something that is greater than what we typically understand here? For example, in my book, Consider Yourself as Eve, I talk about how the first ordinance of the new and everlasting covenant is represented symbolically in the temple, but it is the physical ordinance of being born. And if that's the truth, which I believe it is, you go do your own work on that, your own research. But if it's true that the first ordinance of the new and everlasting covenant is to be born into this world, then that means we are all born in the covenant. And that resonates with me very deeply, especially as a mother, to know that the God that I worship is not a God that would take a child away from their parents under any circumstances. That the fact that that child came through you means that there is a bond that is eternal. And like, to me, that is just more evidence of the expansive God, our heavenly parents who are universal and who are the parents of all of us. That resonates with me more than saying, well, sealing only works if parents get married in a certain place, or if they do these certain check boxes. So that's just an example. And I have more in my book about sealing as a marriage ordinance as well. Again, I think that it's symbolic of something greater. And so what can we learn? Like, what can we learn from that perhaps will teach us even more about God and who God really is? And can we let go of some of our false beliefs about God? And can we hold space for the fact that maybe that's what others are doing too when they choose to leave? Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to leave. I'm not saying everyone needs to stay. I'm not an apologist for the church. I'm very much of the mindset that we each have our own journey to make with God, and eternity is more than big enough to hold all of it. And Christ is big enough to hold all of it for us. I think that our journey to godhood extends beyond just this one mortality. And so that's very helpful for me to understand that we can learn what we came here to learn. We can do what we came here to do. And I would suggest that maybe when our loved ones leave the church, can we hold the possibility that maybe they're doing that as a service to us, to help wake us up to a reality that's bigger than maybe what we have been finding ourselves in for a long time. So those are just some thoughts. And again, I have a lot of compassion for those who leave the church, for those who stay in the church and have loved ones leave. I have a lot of empathy and sympathy for both sides of that. I can see both sides of it. And again, I don't have a prescription for as far as what everyone needs to do. But these just are some thoughts for how to navigate that scenario when someone you love steps away, and maybe their stepping away is actually progression, even if we don't really understand that at the time. So thank you all. Again, I'm super grateful to God for growing me to a point where I can have peace, right? I think that is truly a hallmark of repentance. How do you know if you've repented of something? And it's like, well, if nothing triggers me around that anymore, I think that's one way to see the fruits of repentance, is that I'm healed of that. I'm healed of my religiosity, my pride, my fear that made me feel like everyone had to be where I was, right? But it was a journey to get there. So, and I'm still on it, as we all are. Anyway, those are some thoughts for you for this Sunday. In terms of announcements, we have our first group mentorship starting tomorrow. I'm so excited. We've got about 12 women that are going to be a part of this community. I'm really thrilled for it. If anyone has last minute questions, or if you're feeling drawn to it, I'd love to talk to you. You can still set up a free discovery call just this week. Happy to answer any questions, and you can catch up if it's just this week and you feel called to join. But beyond that, so last week I talked about an upcoming event called Divine by Design. I wanted to let everyone know we're actually going to be rescheduling that. We're pushing it back a little bit. So you'll hear more about that in the future once we have a little bit more of an idea of location and dates and times that are going to be more aligned for that event. But we do have an event coming up in just about a month, which is crazy. I have been this has been on my calendar for months now, and I literally looked at the calendar the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, that's next month. Like, it's finally just around the corner. But I want to personally invite all of you to the Tree of Life retreat, Rooted and Rising. This is being hosted by my dear friend Shalise Bruce and her friend Meghan Wiseman, Rooted and Rising through the Tree of Life. And the idea behind it is to help us discover the meaning of symbolism, find the tree of life that resides inside of us, right? Our bodies are ultimately the temple. The tree of life lives in us, especially as women. We're deeply connected to the tree of life. So how to find that and connect to that aspect of ourselves that is found body and spirit. Understanding more about the feminine, how to embrace the feminine, There will also be some healing, again, that repentance, making it so practical for our journeys. And yeah, there's just a number of incredible speakers that are going to be a part of it. The idea is that this is a guided ascension process from you, root to crown, to help you learn and embody your true self, your highest self. And again, this is the journey of repentance. I've been somewhat accused lately of, I guess maybe it seems to people like when I say things like that, I'm creating a shortcut, that I'm telling people, no, you're fine just the way that you are because you're great or whatever. And that's not a complete image of what I feel like I'm trying to represent or these events are representing. Um, Rather, the invitation is that you come from wholeness. You are a piece of God. But we have all taken on things that make us forget, right? And we've taken on false identities, and we have taken on shame and guilt and pride and envy and all of these things that are not us. And so the journey of repentance is stripping all those away and getting back to the core of who we are. And so this event, I think, is a fantastic opportunity to learn how to do that, to practice that, and to embody that true repentance, which is healing, which is releasing those false beliefs and embodying the truth. So there are really incredible speakers. Some of them spoke at Embodying Eve. So Shalise was at Embodying Eve. Elizabeth Grange, who did the yoga session for Embodying Eve, is also going to be speaking. And we also have a number of women that you haven't met before. Oh, I'm trying to see anyone else. Oh, Candace Noss. Candace is also speaking. Candace was on a podcast with us previously. So some of these names are familiar. And then we also have a number of women speaking that you haven't met yet, but that I know, and they're amazing, you guys. Okay. So I'm so excited for you to meet Emily Powell and Mandy Idukaitis, Megan Watson, as well as Julie Nelson, who's a singer. She'll be participating, and April Terry, who's an artist. She's amazing. And then Amber Kuhn will be doing some breath work for us. So all of these women are amazing. Hoping to have some on for podcast episodes before the event so that you can learn a little bit more about them, but they are incredible. So I will have the link in the show notes for you to go and learn more. There are one-day tickets for Saturday, September 13th, or you can get the VIP ticket, which is Friday night, the 12th of September, and then also all day Saturday. The VIP experience is going to be really fun. It's a little bit more intimate. We're going to have dinner together. We're going to do a drum circle, which is so very feminine. And you'll get some just really awesome presentations about grounding, and then also a Christian perspective on ascension. So exploring that ascension journey in the tree of life within, and in a very grounded, Christ-centered way, which is, as you guys know, is like totally my jam. So if you'd like to come hang out with us in a smaller group, definitely choose that VIP ticket. Otherwise, just go for the one-day ticket, and it will still be so worth it. You're going to get yoga. You're going to be able to engage with other women in this community. There's going to be breath work. You can find reviews of the previous Tree of Life events. Everything is on the website. And I just would love to see you. Again, Shalise does an incredible job. She helped plan Embodying Eve with me. So I know that this event is just going to be so great. And I am speaking as well. I didn't mention that. I am speaking. I will be presenting on the solar plexus chakra, which is all about our personal power. And how are the ways that we've given away our power over time as women, and how do we call that back in a way that's very organic and Christ-centered and helps us to, again, have access to our truer identity, the fact that we are a piece of God, that we are daughters of God, that we have godlike capacity. That's what I'm going to be talking about. So, all right, that's all that we have for the week. Again, best wishes for those going back to school. If you're going to homeschool, great job. I admire you so much. I wish I could do it. Whatever your situation is, if you have kids out of the house, whatever it is, enjoy this second week of August. Know that I love you. I pray for you. And I hope you all have a great week.